Hi, welcome to the People in Housing podcast. I'm absolutely delighted that this episode we've got Matt Hickman, one of our winners from Lovell Partnership. So firstly, for those who are listening, please tell all of the viewers who are watching and listening about Lovell Renew and your role within the business.
Right, fantastic. Yeah. First off, thanks for having me here. It's great opportunity. It's my first podcast, so a little bit nervous, but we'll sort of see how we go. So Lovell Renew, we've recently restructured, so broken away from the new build part of the business to be a standalone refurbishment specialist across the central region. So that is going from the Welsh border all the way across West Midlands, East Midlands, into the east, all the way across into East Anglia, and then from sort of Stoke, draw a line straight across, and then Oxford, a line again straight across. So all of that area in between. So a big old region.
That's a very nice big old region.
And it's fantastic for us. £100 million business.
Yeah.
With a very specific refurbishment specialism, sort of half retrofit and decarb, and then half planned maintenance, rooftop development on high rise. So really specific, very people focused.
And a lot of the viewers from the public sector will always, if you say Lovell, the default mindset is new build.
Absolutely.
What was the thinking process behind the rebrand and positioning of the new business?
The reason is because over the past few years, certainly we've grown. So we had a planned maintenance background, but over the years, we've grown significantly. So much so that it justifies us having our own regional managing director. Mm-hmm. So Carl Yale has been promoted. There's also been succession planning within our organisation. Mm-hmm. So people have gone on from being sort of high-ranking managers up to operational directors. So a guy called Scott Turley, who's recently been promoted there. And really, it's because it gives us a very specific refurbishment solution. Means we can be quite agile and we can be really focused on the refurbishment part of our business. Mm-hmm. Lovell Partnerships have got a great reputation, great values, and we carry that through into Lovell Renew, and that's definitely part of our DNA. Affordable housing, but also refurbishment of social housing. It's a fantastic business.
And in terms of the strategy of the business, how is Lovell Renew going to be contributing to tackling energy efficiency within all the social housing challenges that all the associations have got?
For us, it's not just energy efficiency and improving the performance of people's homes is 100% what we do. Mm-hmm. But we don't look at energy efficiency in isolation. So we look at that combined with some of the challenges in terms of decency, some of the challenges regarding damp and mould, and other sort of planned maintenance type solutions that we need to provide. From our perspective, focus is very much looking at the outcomes in people's homes. Mm-hmm. So not necessarily a focus on the fabric of the building or looking at the sort of investment in assets. It's about the person's home. We've got something reasonably innovative, something we call Plan Plus. And what that does is where we're providing a solution for a major planned element, so it could be a kitchen, a bathroom or a roof, we also, at the same time, to minimise disruption to residents, will upgrade the energy performance of the property too. So at the same time, get that property from, up to an EPCC at the very least. That minimises disruption. So we do all of that work in one hit for the resident. And also, locally, delivering something called Homes for Modern Living. Okay. So it takes all of those silos for planned works and energy performance, and then other sort of nice to have elements and sort of brings them all together. So for example, that could be kitchen and bathroom renewal, roofing renewal, and then improving the energy performance of the property to EPCC, but also giving the resident a usable outside space for laundry and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So really focused on the outcomes, very specific to that individual resident. Sounds common sense and sounds pretty straightforward, but when you've got siloed funding for all of those streams, it's difficult. And it's also difficult from a delivery perspective because you have to align all of those delivery streams to target that one hit to minimise disruption. So it's something we're really quite proud of. One of the most important things that we do more recently is we have a joint VMost with some of our customers. So when we're retrofitting homes at scale, delivering energy performance improvements, if you like, we agree people-focused vision, and then we have a clear mission that we do together, and then we have objectives, strategies and tactics for everyone in the team to understand how we realise that vision. And what that does is provides a clear line of sight for our people, for our supply chain, also for our customers, so that we're all moving in the same direction to ultimately provide homes that are healthy, that are warm, that are better, that are safer. Everyone knows exactly what the vision is. And that's been a really big improvement more recently as we've sort of changed our business and as we sort of grow and develop and get more people on board. So it's been really effective.
Obviously, we had 5 judges for the People in Housing Awards. We had Eddie Hughes, the former housing minister. We had the chief exec of the Crown Commercial Services. We had a director from optimisation from Optima. We had a director of housing. It was really interesting for me to watch the judges choose their winner. Why do you think you guys won?
Crikey, that's a great question. I would like to think that we sort of demonstrated how we've really got a people-focused approach. So in terms of the nuts and bolts, everyone can do that. Any responsible main contractor can deliver a retrofit project that's compliant and that's assurance, quality backed and all of those things. From our perspective, we have had a sort of a different approach to the strategy around the customer experience. So a few years ago, Carl Yale, my boss who did a podcast with you guys previously, he made a strategic decision to bring some new people into the business. Fortunately, I was one of them. And then my colleague, Caroline Lovelace, she was the other. So she's a customer experience manager. And she has absolutely transformed our approach to resident engagement. So we've been on that journey for the past couple of years. We've reaccredited with TPAS. And I'm really proud to say that we were the first, and we are still the first and only main contractor to go through that reaccreditation process. It's been absolutely transformational. The amount of work that went into it and the action plan that was derived from it has transformed how we have a strategic approach towards focusing on residents, but that as it has helped with or has influenced training programs, it's influenced the IT that we use, it's influenced the sort of innovation and also some of the other organisations that we work with.
And what were the top learns renewing that accreditation? It's almost like the Champions League. Not many people can retain such things. What were the top 2 or 3 learns that you made from the first accreditation to getting it renewed and being the only contractor having that?
I think that there's been a more professional approach to resident engagement. So understanding the psychology behind the work that goes in to working with residents and working in people's homes. So Caroline has led our team in terms of training and development, but also some of the sort of the more obvious things that we didn't really see. So looking at the language that we use with some of our in social housing. A few years ago, people still do talk about assets and housing stock. Well, they're people's homes. And you talk about, so if you go back to the early days, sort of modern retrofit, back in sort of 2020 to the demonstrator, we really struggled to get people on board. So not just us, but our customers as well. So people were talking about decarbonisation of the asset or retrofit of the property. We don't use that language anymore at all now. So when we're speaking to residents and we're trying to get them engaged in the process, we talk about the work that we're going to do and we manage their expectations. If it's going to be challenging, then we tell them it's going to be challenging. We don't pull any punches. But at the same time, we explain what the benefit is to them. So we look at just explaining to them how we're going to make the home better, safer, warmer, more energy efficient, healthier. So it's that kind of language, and it really is a more strategic and a sort of psychological approach to that customer experience. What it's done, if you compare the figures from the demonstrator to the figures for wave 3 in terms of people who refuse work, back in sort of 2020, 2021, the dropout rate could be as high as 25%. So 1 in 4 people just deciding that they didn't want the work to be done at all. that is now down to sort of around 2% because that engagement is better. I think when we're looking to deliver these projects at scale and we're dealing with people, so Amplius, for example, in a strategic partnership with Desnes, we're part of that. They're a very sophisticated customer, so they get all of this. It just makes our work far easier to deliver because we're all singing from the same page. We've all got a very clear vision. And I think in terms of delivering retrofit at real scale, so the demonstrator wave 1, dozens, hundreds of properties, now to wave 3, where we're going to be delivering thousands of properties between now and sort of September 2028. But that is the step change that we needed to achieve to genuinely deliver retrofit at scale.
And then in terms of putting the resident at the heart of every project, is there a golden thread and a golden theme that there is the Lovell way, or is it bespoke on every project?
No, there is, and it's a great question, Dar, because the Lovell way is the thing that describes our values.
Okay.
And they sound really simplistic, but we apply these things to everything that we do. And that is basically doing the right thing, easy to talk to, and showing that we care. Mm-hmm. Those is the mission, if you like. That's what's going to help us to achieve our vision of genuinely delivering healthy homes in a people-focused way. So we become the trusted partner for organisations. Sort of golden thread is multifaceted. It's supported by TPAS 100%. The best practice that we've learned from TPAS over the past few years, we apply that. So you take our values and our compliance and our people and our established supply chain. Then if you add to that the best practice for TPAS, then that gives you the sort of foundation to deliver retrofit at scale. And that's what we're seeing more recently. I think once all of those things are in place, you can also then start to look at innovation.
Yeah.
We're working recently, make a digital twin of properties. So we're going to a property, one of the first surveys, carry out a digital twin. Then we take that data and then we can share that data with our supply chain and other partners. So that minimises disruption for the resident. So there's not lots and lots of surveys coming up, lots of times of the day. That has been a real game changer. But when you bring all of those things together, that's when you can really make a difference.
It's interesting that you say resident, because it's always interesting when you do these podcasts or you go to these meetings and some people just refer to them as the tenants.
Yeah.
It's the resident.
Yeah.
In terms of the digital twin, how are Lovell looking at AI? Because obviously it's a big thing at the moment for all businesses.
It is. It's huge.
I've heard of the digital twin, but in terms of technology, how are you using technology to be an enabler?
Yeah.
And enhance your customer experience for the residents?
So for us, we're dealing with huge, in these cases where we're delivering at scale, we're dealing with huge sets of data.
Yeah.
Often pulled in from very different places. You look at the sort of energy performance for the property, digital twin, and then the sort of construction details that we're dealing with. Starting to use AI to sort of bring those big data sets together so they become useful. Our attitude towards it, we are a people-focused business. We are looking at AI and the application of that, but it's very much in a sort of human way with empathy and kindness. And we'll take those tools and we are developing quite innovative solutions, but it's taking the AI and robots used by humans rather than the other way around, rather than AI and robots to replace humans, is very much where we sort of, the future going, that is sort of part of our DNA, is part of how we work.
In terms of the future of retrofit, how do you see what good will look like in practice in the next couple of years?
Good will look like the government not scrapping the net zero agenda. I think that's probably a threat to us at the moment, but we hope that common sense will prevail. The Healthy Homes Plan will continue beyond 2030. All of the investment that we've made in terms of sharing a long-term pipeline with our supply chain, we hope that will continue. But it is a challenge, it is a challenge. I think in the short term, the future for tackling fuel poverty, reducing carbon, increasing the well-being and the thermal comfort for people in their home, and measuring the health implications for not just for the NHS but for the wider society. I really think that is one of the key things certainly that we're focusing on, and we're trying to look to see how we can capture that and how we can measure that improvement. There's also a few things that may appear a little bit more subtle, but some of the things that we're working on, a fantastic organisation called Stigma in Social Housing.
Okay.
They're doing some fantastic research just at the moment in terms of the sort of the language that we use. I had a conversation with Operations Director just recently, and this is sort of anecdotal. We don't have the sort of solid data to support this, but up to 40% of the people we come into contact with in some of the social housing properties where we work, up to 40% have some kind of mental health challenge, which is a huge number of people considering where we're at. Those people, there's a sort of an umbrella phrase of vulnerable. Those people are vulnerable. Just because someone is dealing with anxiety and depression doesn't necessarily mean that they're vulnerable, but it means that they may well have additional needs. So we're looking at how we can improve our engagement with those groups of people so that even people who have got challenges have the access to a decent, safe, warm, better home. So I think that is something that we'll be focusing on. So looking at the implications of housing and the link between housing and health, I think it's going to be big in terms of the government's drive going forward. And that's certainly something that we're looking to support.
With the award that Lovell Renew won, we had 12 firms put in their own individual bids. I only saw them when the judges were shortlisting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think set Lovell Renew's bid apart from the work that you've done in the last 24 months compared to every other firm that entered that award?
You know, we're not new to this. So we do have some really good people who deliver this in the right way. Again, we have our own dedicated teams in terms of compliance. But one of the biggest benefits that we have at Lovell is that we're a partnerships business. So the relationships that we have with, not just with our customers, but with our supply chains and with our own people, they are long-term and meaningful relationships. So we've leveraged that and also sort of that to the next level by developing a customer engagement framework, by developing strategic partnerships with some of our big customers. And I think that gives us the sort of foundation to do things in a kind way and with, you know, as I've said, with a big focus on people. It's not what you do, it's the way that you do it.
100%. And the People in Housing Awards wasn't one of those where buy a table, call me cynical, and you win an award. I think we had 3 people from Lovell to attend, which was fantastic. Once you guys feed that news back, the guys who are boots on the ground doing the work.
It's difficult because we would want all of our people to be there to celebrate. We don't do this to seek gratification and awards. We do this because it's the right thing to do. Like a lot of people who work at Lovell. So I grew up in a council house in the 1970s and 80s in the Black Country. You can probably tell from the accent, you know.
No comment.
So we do this because it's the right thing to do. The people who work in people's homes, they really care and they do show that they care and they do the right thing day in, day out. And I think that's what gives them the sort of motivation. That's what makes you feel good about working for Lovell. Winning awards, it's something that we want to do, but we're doing it for the right reasons because we want more people to know, you know, you sort of right at the very beginning, Lovell associated with new build homes, and that's a fantastic reputation, fantastic business, and the partnerships ethos is absolutely fabulous. The reason that we want to raise our profile is because we want to reach more people. We want to share our sort of strategic partnership approach with more people. Not just that, there are, over the past few years, what I've noticed sort of goals working with young people is that we're doing really well to encourage more young people into the industry, and they are doing jobs that you didn't even exist a few years ago.
Yeah.
So the sort of data analyst side of things, so PAS compliance side, and then some of the sort of customer experience roles that are at a strategic level, they just didn't exist. So for us to try and raise our profile and to try and engage with more young people, to get young people into our industry. That's one of the key drivers, because we want people to come and work for probably an award-winning business. Is there a little bit of vanity in it? Do we want to be recognised as the best? Yes, we do, absolutely. But it's genuine, because we think we are.
100%. And to put you on the spot, 12 months' time, we will have the second People in Housing Awards, the next one, we're aiming for 400 to 500 attendees with at least 70 companies. And it would be remiss of Lovell not to attempt to regain their award-winning status.
Yeah.
What is Lovell Renew doing in the next 12 months to gain that momentum, win an award and evolving their service offering?
There's some really exciting stuff around finance, PV and battery storage. So again, that's really, really exciting. Part of the PV rooftop revolution, if you like. So that's really exciting. We're working on digital innovation. Again, all of this is very sort of people focused. There's an awful lot of great stuff. I'm pretty sure that the work that we're doing from a customer experience perspective is probably the most exciting of that, because we're really focusing on people that probably don't get a sort of fair crack of things, maybe because of their health or maybe because of where they live. So we're really looking to make sure that we can engage fully with those groups of people, and hopefully we'll be recognised for that kind of thing, for a business that cares about people.
Brilliant. And my last question, Matt, is obviously it's a big region that Lovell Renew are covering now. Obviously, there's a big brand exercise in terms of making people aware of, £100 million business is quite substantial. What is the 5-year play for Lovell Renew as a business?
We have a strategy, so the senior leadership team have a clear strategy. What we do, obviously, we have a clear vision of where we want to get to. We have a set of objectives that we establish every year. We don't just do the same things over and over again. We'll set clear strategic objectives for our customers, for our own people, for residents, for communities and for our supply chain.
Okay.
So all of those sort of strategies and tactics will make us better as we sort of go from year to year. We have a sustainable approach to growth. However, we're in a fantastic position in terms of the customers that we have. Again, based on very long-term partnerships. Those partnerships, pretty much all of those partnerships have grown over the past 5-10 years. There's definitely an opportunity for us to grow. We're better placed as well for when large RPs merge. If you take the Longhurst Group and Grand Union, for example, who merged recently to form Amplius, our central region can serve all of their homes.
Yeah,
that's something that makes us really quite agile. It's not about growth. It's not about sort of net margin. It's about making a difference to people's homes and to people's lives is the focus. And I think if we can get that right, everything else, comes. There are other things that are always an absolute priority number one. So making sure that our people go home safely every night. So zero harm, so that no one gets hurt when they come to work, is an absolute priority. Also have a really sophisticated approach to embedding social value in the communities where we work. So we've got a real robust plan and vision to roll that out over the next sort of 5 to 10 years. We're a big player. We can make a big difference in communities, and that's the right thing to do.
And I know I said that was my last question, but my last question then is around the social value initiative. What's the one thing that Lovell Renew have done in the last 12 months that you're super proud of?
So sometimes we get carried away by talking about some of the softer things that we do. So with community groups and sort of smaller organisations and charitable events. At Lovell, we're really fortunate. So to support all of those types of initiatives, every employee is given 2 days a year to support a voluntary organisation in the country. That has delivered thousands and thousands of hours of social value in community, across the past 12 months. Probably more importantly, the investment that we've made in terms of new employment in communities. So employment, training, skills, that has been something that we're really proud of. For every project that we deliver, we'll do a specific social value plan on the Social Value UK portal.
Yeah.
Because it's such a huge region, it's difficult to identify one individual initiative that's made the biggest impact. But we've got a long-running partnership with St Basil's in Birmingham.
Yeah.
We've got You, Built by You, and that really does deliver a social value legacy for young people and people who've experienced care. That's probably the standout one. And we support that every year with a sponsored walk. It's more than a walk, it's 20 miles.
Yeah,
so we support that every year, and that really, really embeds a legacy. So I guess what good looks like for me from a social value perspective is where we deliver a legacy in local communities, and we support that and we continue to support that.
That's fantastic. Matt, thank you so much for coming down, and I look forward to hearing all the success and wins that you guys have over the next 12 months.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dal. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
My pleasure.
Thank you.